Hello everyone, this is Crypto BitLaw, here with another blockchain legal brief, and today we're going to discuss a lawsuit that was recently filed against Gemini for negligence. But before we dive in, please, if you like this content, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And with that said, let's jump right on in. Alright, so as we can see here, the Daily Hodl reports crypto exchange Gemini hit with lawsuit for alleged negligence over $36 million in customer funds. They say a retirement account trust company is suing the crypto exchange Gemini for failing to have the, quote, proper safeguards in place to protect its customers' assets. IRA Financial Trust alleges hackers stole $36 million in crypto assets belonging to their customers' retirement accounts, which were reportedly in Gemini's custody. Quote, Gemini permitted these transfers to occur and, contrary to its representations, did not detect them with anti-fraud systems. Amazingly, it was IRA that had to alert Gemini, the so-called leader in safeguarding crypto assets, of the obvious fraud occurring on Gemini's platform. And IRA did not have the ability to freeze crypto accounts. Thus, once IRA discovered the hack, it was left to frantically email Gemini again and again to get all accounts frozen. Remarkably, it took 6 emails from IRA in nearly 2 hours for Gemini to freeze all customer accounts. In the interim, millions of dollars in crypto assets were stolen. This is Gemini's second publicized lawsuit this month. Last week, the Commodities Future Trading Commission, or CTFC, announced it had brought charges against the exchange, alleging employees made false and incomplete statements to the agency. All right, so turning now, we can see here's the docket in this case. It was filed in the Southern District of New York, and we've spoken about this district before. It's the district that encompasses Manhattan, Wall Street. Some of the biggest financial cases are out of the Southern District of New York. So it's in federal court. And as we can see, the title of the case is IRA Financial Trust versus Gemini Trust Company, LLC. That's the holding company that operates Gemini, the Gemini Exchange, and the Gemini Holding Company for this third-party asset holding of these funds. And there really hasn't been much action. There was the complaint. It was filed on June 6th, and there was a summons on June 7th. I mean, here now it is the 10th. So, I mean, this thing's only been pending for a few days. Turning now to the actual complaint, we could see there's some goodies in here. It starts with the introduction. Gemini is a prominent crypto asset exchange owned by Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss. Claims to have more than $30 billion in assets under management. This is where it gets good. Gemini boasts of supposedly industry-leading security protections such as two-factor authentication, quote, whitelisting withdrawal addresses, and fraud detection algorithms. Gemini says that these protections, among others, quote, eliminate single points of failure. This was false. Emphasis added with the italics. In reality, Gemini's greedy focus on lining its owners' pockets at the expense of security caused tens of millions of dollars in damage to customers and to IRA. All right, shots fired. Shots fired. Scrolling down here, here's some funny screenshots that were inserted into the complaint from Gemini's websites. We set the standard for crypto cybersecurity. Gemini is the world's first cryptocurrency exchange and custodian to complete the rigorous SOC 2 Type 1 examination. Okay, the crypto revolution needs rules. We believe that crypto investors deserve the same protections as investors in other asset classes. So we've built a rules-based marketplace with security at its core. Interesting. All right, so further down we could see here are the allegations. Count 1, as we could see, is fraud. Okay, so IRA repeats and alleges the allegations. This is an action for fraud. Okay. So we have fraud. Count 2 is negligence. So the elements of negligence are duty, risk, duty, breach, causation, and damages. So if they can prove that, yeah, Gemini breached its duty to use reasonable care. So, yeah, duty breached causation and damages in order to prove negligence. Gross negligence for count three. Count three again. Apparently, I guess they assumed count four, but only, I guess, OCD nerds like myself would take care to read this over and over and over and over again. I used to read my pleadings an ungodly amount of times. I still do, but I don't know. I just count three and then count three again. So violation of New York GBL section 349. Let's see. It's general business law, so it prevents unlawful deceptive acts. So let's see. Count four, which I guess should be count five. Contribution. Let's see what they want here. IRA repeats, breached its duties. Okay. To the extent IRA is found liable for claims, it caused IRA's equitable share determined based on its Okay, so we have this in my jurisdiction. We call this contributory negligence. So let's say you get into an accident, but the accident's actually like 20% your fault. Like you are found by the jury to have 20% culpability in contributing to the overall accident. The person you're suing is more culpable than you are. They're more responsible for the accident than you are. But let's say, you were driving on bald tires, right? And it was raining. And the other person, they were more at fault for an accident. The fact that you were on bald tires, I mean, that could have contributed to the accident, right? And so, based on this legal theory that they call here contribution, or that we call in our jurisdiction not contributory negligence. Oh, God, I just said what the word is. It's escaping my mind. But what would happen is that, like, let's say you're found to be at fault for 20% of the overall accident, and the defendant was found to be at fault for 80%. And let's say you got awarded $100 in damages. What would happen is the judge would reduce the overall value of your award by the amount that you contributed to the accident. So if you were 20% at fault, your $100 reward would be reduced by 20%. So instead of getting $100, you would get $80. All right. Defamation. Okay, so we all pretty much know what defamation is. Tortious interference. So that is, we call it tortious interference with the contract. So it's unjustifiable, intentional interference with a business or contractual relationship. And then they want attorney's fees and a jury trial. So, I mean, pretty standard all in all. Interesting stuff. All right, so what do we have here? Some points of note. This issue with custody accounts, I've never really trusted this, but I guess when you're dealing with these large-scale institutions like institutional investment trusts and everything like that, I guess they don't really feel comfortable handling large amounts of crypto assets by themselves, and that's why they invoke things like Coinbase custody or Gemini custody or Fireblocks. I don't know if you've heard recently, I guess it was last year at some point, there was this issue. Fireblocks is this company that managed custody accounts on behalf of third parties, and they ended up losing the keys to this one account, and there's this big lawsuit that happened. But, in between this whole Gemini hack, the Fireblocks thing, and just custody accounts in general, I mean, it strikes against the heart at what I feel is one of the core tenets of crypto, which is self-custody. And it raises that age-old adage in crypto, not your keys, not your coins. I mean, when you rely on these kooks, I mean, what do you expect is going to happen? And so, I mean, it really doesn't surprise me when, here they come along and say, oh, your crypto was compromised. And the problem is I've used things like Gemini Earn before. I've used Gemini. I think it's a pretty decent platform. But they had this program called Gemini Earn where you could give them Dogecoin and deposit Dogecoin. And what they would do is rehypothecate it. And usually they lend it out to short sellers, things like that. And they would give you 7% on it at the time. And what struck me was that when you were reading through the terms of service, they were so heavily one-sided in favor of Gemini and the third-party custodians that, I mean, you'd have a really tough time trying to break through that in a court, and they just put up so many procedural barriers in this contract that they made you agree to, the terms of service, before you start using their program. And so, relating it back to the lawsuit at hand, I feel like a lot of what they're alleging in this lawsuit, things like tortious interference and the fraud, is designed to cut through a lot of the red tape that was set forth in the terms of services. Because I'm assuming, I don't know, I mean, one can only assume, it's only natural that Gemini, if you're going to use their custodial service, they're going to have all of these contractual safeguards that are in place in order to heavily favor Gemini in the event that something like this happens, where they could just point to a clause or a section of language in the contract in the event that these funds got compromised and say, hey, look, you agreed that we wouldn't be held liable in the event that your funds were compromised. And so, it's a lot of push and pull, a lot of tit for tat, and we could just kind of see here in black and white, the games that people are playing. Here's Gemini. We're going to put all this heavily language, this open-ended language that favors us in the terms of service, and then the plaintiffs come along and then throw everything in the kitchen sink at them in the lawsuit to see, okay, what you can throw against the wall and see what sticks and what you can get through in a court. I mean, ultimately, everybody's trying to cover themselves, CYA, and I guess just trying to be made whole at the end of an unfortunate event, if you will. But interesting case nonetheless. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And with that said, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.